Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. It's your favorite data engineer again, Henry. In today's video we're going to talk about something mathematical which will help you understand and see the power of how to use SQL. What is the scenario we'll be looking at today? In today's video we will be doing some analytical calculation. What is this about? What we're going to do is we're going to look at summing total sales value and then be able to extract the second highest value in the total value that we get. Yes, we're going to use SQL for this particular scenario. One, we're going to look at the total sales value, the total sales we made from some particular products. Then we'll find the second highest sales we made, right? We should be able to extract just that total value, second highest sales from the entire sales that we made over the period. And in this, we're going to use already data provided by the Databricks free edition to do this analysis. And to solve this problem, we're going to use two methods. The first one using just the normal SQL computations, that's mathematical computation. The second method would be a Windows function, right? A Windows function, a SQL Windows function. And this is very powerful. If you understand this Windows function, trust me, this is going to be good and you're going to advance in how you use SQL, right? So not to waste much time, let's just begin and look at how we can implement this scenario. Just come read me, right? All right, let's begin. Well, as I said in this video, what we're going to do is to find the second highest value in a particular sum or a particular product list or the total list or the total sales. We're going to find the second highest value. First of all, let's take a look at our data set or the underlying data we'll be using for this particular video or this particular training. All right, let's take a look at a table provided by Databricks free edition, which is big house, right? And if you take a look at this table, it has the details of transactions, right? Transaction ID, customer ID, franchise, date, product, quantity, unit price, total price, payment method, card number, right? This is like a sales that have happened or transactions that happen and it's been captured. This is dummy data, so don't be worried about it. This is just dummy data so that Databricks want to help us to be able to learn how to use their tools, right? Now, in our scenario, what we're going to do is to find the total price or the total sales of each particular product that have happened. So how did they get this price? It's just quantity times unit price, and that resulted in the total sales, right? Total price here. But we change this to total sales, right, to make it understandable. And then we find the total sales that have occurred for each of these products. And from there, we'll find the second highest sales we ever made. Second highest product, the product having the second highest sales, right? Let's begin by creating a query editor. And let's say SQL second highest, right? That'll be the name we'll give it. Our editor. Now let's take a look at the data that we have. Let's just write a query to see that. To select from the table that we have, you copy the table name, you bring it here. I told you in Databricks it uses three namespaces. That's the catalog, the schema name, and the table name. So this is the catalog name, the schema name, and the table name, right? Okay, so let's take a look at the data that we have. We'll just, because we are only focusing our attention on product and total price, let's just record just these two columns, right? Let's record this one. So that's product, comma, and total price. Let's run this and see what we have, and we'll see what we have for this particular table. The engine just got run and it's serverless. As you can see, you can find it here, serverless warehouse, right? That's serverless being used. Okay, great. And this is the data that we have, over 1,000 rows, right? We could export, but it's so huge, so over 1,000 rows, there's no need to export. Okay, now as we said, we want to find the total sales for each of these price. This product, you can see the products are repetitive, so it means being sold multiple times. So we want to find the total sales for each of these products, right? We group by each of this product. All right, so let's change this. Let's make this sum. So we use the sum function. We want to sum the total price so that we get the total price that each of them is being sold, right? As I said, we change this name to sales amount, right? Now, because we've brought an aggregation into this, or a mathematical aggregation into this, SQL will refuse it if you run it without adding a group by, because SQL need to know what particular column is going to group the sum by. You want to sum something, you need to, it goes by group by. Any aggregation you do in SQL goes by with group by. Without a group by, the engine will reject it and tell you the error that happened. Let's just verify. If we run this, we should get an error and should tell us group by. Now you can see it's telling us the query did not include group by. As you can see here, great. So that is how SQL runs. SQL, anytime you are using an aggregator or aggregator function or formula in it, you need to ensure that you are grouping by what you want it to sum by. There need to be some product or some particular indicator to tell it that you are summing this by this particular item. So we need to bring our group by. What are we grouping by? We are grouping by product. So anytime you see a product, just carry all those products and sum their total sales for me. That's what you're telling SQL to do. Now this is what we got, right? Now you can see that we have these particular values and it's not in any particular order, right? This looks like this just by default that happen to be the highest, but look at this. This is kind of the second highest, but it's found on this side on the 5th row, right? And it's just misarranged, not necessarily according to any order, right? But just for this video, we want to order it by the highest, right? The highest to begin, followed by the second in that order, right? In descending order. So to do that, there is a function you need to use, a code, right? In SQL, order by. And we already know how SQL engine executes this code that we are writing. We know order by is one of the last thing that SQL engine executes. So you could call order by on an aggregator, right? On an aggregate, but you are not able to call a where on an aggregate based on how the SQL engine executes the code. So we know this one we can do order by sales amount. So we need it descending order. So let's run this. Now you can see it's created an order for us. It ordered this, and we know in SQL we need to indent our code very well, right? Now you see this ordered the particular values for us, right? So this is the highest, this is the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth in that order, right? It did a great job, right? Nice, great. Now let's begin with what we said. Now we want to write a code. The query is write a code and find the second highest value, not the entire table, but just extract the second highest value, which is this particular row, just this value for us, right? You could either extract the total amount, or you extract the amount with the product, right? That is the code. That is the complexity that we can write in SQL, right? That's a complex code to write. But your favorite data engineer will break it down for you seamlessly, and you should be able to understand this. Now, to do this, let's make this a CTE. A CTE, a common table expression. And to do a CTE, what you need to do is to put this into a new table, create a table out of the major one. So we have this, we'll maintain this code, but we'll convert it into a CTE. And to do that, let's just place this to the next line and bring width. We know it should start with the width, and we give our CTE a name, right? Width, let's say total amount as So we put all this and name this whole code as total sales. So anytime we call total sales, we know it should be this table, this particular sum, this 6 value column, right? That's total sales now. So anywhere we call total amount, we know it belongs to this, right? But this is not saved anywhere. These are temporary tables that you create and make use of your computation, as I said in the previous videos that I've done, right? If you have not seen that, you should take a look at my channel. You'll find how to create the explanation I gave on CTEs. All right, so we have this. Now the question is, or the scenario is, we need to extract this second highest value. How do we do this? Whoa, great. That is why I'm here. Let's go. Let's create and let's write another code. Select from, but in this case, you are not going back to select from this table. No. That is why you created this CTE. So this CTE becomes your base that you'll be using for this computation going forward for this particular scenario. Whenever we need that table, we'll call it back from that table, right? But in this case, we are interested in this CTE. So we'll call from total amount, this particular CTE, the name we gave it, from total amount. What do we want? Now, let's go a little bit mathematical, right? Okay, if we have these total values and you select just these first values, you select this value out of this table, you delete these values out of this table, what remains? It remains this, right? Now, out of this, and then you select the maximum value out of this, you should be able to get this value. I hope the logic is right. Do you follow? Let me say it again. Now, we have these tables, these values. Let's assume that you deleted this particular first row from this table. This is deleted out. The remaining value would be from this to that, right? Out of this, if you select the highest value from this again, you should get the second value. That is exactly what we're going to do. We're going to create an imaginary delete or an imaginary exclusion of this value. Then we select the highest value from the remaining list in the table. That is just some sort of elimination, right? Great. Okay, so what do we do now? Let's do it this way. Let's find the maximum value, right? The maximum value, and say we are finding the maximum value from this particular sales amount, right? Then we call it as second highest. Stay with me. Second highest. This will become the second highest, right? Okay, great. So we are saying we are finding the maximum value from this particular table, which will be the second highest. Now we are going to include our exclusion. Now we are going to exclude this particular value at this point, where total amount, go to this particular table where sales amount, right? Sales amount is not in, or we could do it's not in this way, open bracket, select from total amount, find the maximum sales Great. This is what we're talking about. So let's run this and take a look. Now you can see we have the highest amount. Let me go over again. Now, this particular CTE, if we run this CTE, we have the total summation of the sales that we've ever made, right, for these products. And we have this, right, grouped according to descending order, the highest to the lowest. The question is, we want to find the second highest sales in this particular sales amount. How do we do that? There are two ways, and we are implementing one way. That is, first of all, we find out what is the highest value in this particular sales amount. What is the highest value? And this is what gives us the highest value, right? This gives us the highest value, right? Now, then what this gives us the highest value, which will be 11595, right? And then we come back to this seat select, saying that find us the value from this same table that you have. Come to this table that you have, where this value, that's 11, take out 11595. This tells us not in excludes. That's what it means. Not in. That means we don't need this value as part of the result, right? So find us the maximum value which does not include this highest amount, and that will pick the second highest amount from the table, which is this. So when it eliminates this, as a result, you are left with this, and then it looks through this and gets the maximum value, which will then result in this particular value. That is how come when we run this code, we have the second highest value as this. Great. Watch this video again to get a deeper understanding, but I know this is one of the greatest way to learn complex SQL with these easy, simple scenarios, right? So this helps you to understand how complex SQL can get. But with this, I'm sure when you practice it, you should be able to get all these scenarios and examples right. Okay, great. Let's look at the second method. This is also SQL, but with this way, we are going to use a Windows function to build this Windows function. We are going to use a Windows function to get the same result, right? Let's open new query on this, right? And name this SQL and do Windows function second highest, right? Let's see, is the engine running? Yeah, great. All right, with this is pretty much a little bit straightforward and easier. So the first thing we also do is to look at the data set, right? Select from, now let's go to the table, copy the table name, and then what we need, the most important thing we need is the product, comma, we have then we need the total price. Let's take a look. Right, so this is also the total value, right? Now in Windows function, what it does is we are going to use the rank function to rank the total sales or the total price by the total amount, right, that they produce. So we're going to rank this in descending order, just as we did grouping or ordering by. But in this case, we're going to use a ranking. So we're going to say, look at these total sales, the sum of the total values, and rank them according to numbers for us. And so that we have some numerical arrangement that we can see. So with this, we need the summation of this, right? Let's take a look at the summation of this so that we can have as total amount, right? And let's by product. So we have these two, right? Great. Now let's implement our rank function in SQL and rank these total sales or these total values in order, in descending order. That's the highest to the smallest. Let's rank these total sales. And to do that, we have comma rank. Right, that is the function you need to use, rank. And what are we ranking it over? We're ranking it over, right? Order by the sum of the total price, and you do it descending order. So we are saying that rank it over. So take all the total amounts that have occurred here, right? That's what it means. The ranking is going to do. Rank these particular values over their totals amounts that they've done and arrange them in descending order. And so this rank should give us numerical value. So let's name it as ranked and run the query. Right, so you can see we've ranked this particular in descending order, highest, second highest in this order. So we have a ranking now. Great. Now let's indent our code properly, and now let's create a CTE with ranking as, let's name all this way. And so now this particular full table is now called ranking. All this table is now called ranking. Right, now let's select from the ranking. What do we need from the ranking? We want to see the product. You could choose that, right? The product, and we want to see the total amount as well. Now this is where you are able to select the second highest, right? If we run this, it should just give us all the product that we have, right? Everything just as it is, right? Great. But in this case, what we want is only where this ranking that occurred, the numerical ranking, is equal to 2. That's what we want. This is where you are able to select the second highest. So this gives you the second highest sales, total sales or product sales by product, right? The second highest amount sold by the product or the table that we had. Great. So this is very essential for you to understand, because this Windows function or Windows function, it's very powerful. If you understand how to use it, you can use it in much more complex scenarios. So I will encourage you to watch this again. Great. So thanks for joining me today. We've been able to do this particular analysis where we find the second highest product in a list of products by total amount, using two methods. The first one using the aggregation functions in SQL. The second one using a Windows function or a ranking function to result or to get the same result. Thank you for joining me for today's video. Like, share, comment, and invite other colleagues or friends to come and learn SQL the easiest way possible. And your favorite data engineer is here to break it down for everyone to become a data engineer, data analyst, or data person, right? Great. Thank you for joining me today. See you in my next video. Bye bye.